And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what happened overnight when things transpire you whilst you sleep. Right there in the loop you keep.
Yep.
Welcome to the summary from Guerilla Cricket of the fourth day's play at Edgbaston of the first Ashes Test, and a gripping and enthralling day it's been. I'm very pleased to be joined today by not Fred doing his debut on the Roundup. Welcome, Fred.
Thank you for having me, Messi.
I'll start off with a very brief summary of today's play, and then we'll get into some discussion around it. England started the day at 28 for 2, leading by just 35 runs, and took off at a merry rate with Pope and Root batting with considerable freedom until Pope was bowled by an absolute perler from Cummins. But that didn't stop Root, who carried on batting beautifully, it must be said, until he something took him in the head. He wandered down the wicket to Lyon and was easily stumped by Carey for 46. Harry Brook was batting nicely, though, although he started to get a little bogged down and then got well caught by Labuschagne off Lyon for 46. Stokes surprisingly batted very slowly initially, but ended up with a very decent 43 from 66 deliveries before being LBW to Cummins for 43. And Bairstow was LBW to Lyon for 20. Moeen Ali made 19 off 31 balls before being caught behind from Hazelwood. Ollie Robinson made it a very passable 27 from 44 deliveries, but was caught at deep mid-on by Green from Lyon for 27. Jimmy Anderson made 12 before he was caught behind off Cummins, leaving Stuart Broad 10 not out. So England made a total of 273, setting in Australia a target of 281 to win, which is one less than Australia was set in 2005 at the same ground, which they failed to reach by 3 runs, I think it was it?
I think it was 2, yeah.
Yeah. In reply, Khawaja and Warner got off to a good start. Warner was looking pretty solid until he was caught behind by Bairstow from Robinson for 36 from 57 balls. And then Broad came in and bowled fiercely and beautifully. He had Labuschagne caught behind for 13 and Smith caught behind for 6. And that really put Australia behind the 8 ball. They sent in Scott Boland as a night watchman. He ended on 13 from 19 deliveries, his highest test score. And at the close, Australia are 107 for 3, needing, another 174 runs to win. With the prospect of a pretty wet first session tomorrow, we don't know how much play we'll get, but it may well prove to be a target that requires a reasonable run rate. So we could be set for a very exciting day tomorrow. What's your feeling about today's play, Fred, and your highlights?
I mean, it's been a terrific test match so far. Today was no different. I mean, as you know, after 4 days, when you can argue with 1 day to play who is the favourite, and you get no agreement from 5 different pundits, that tells you how close this game is. Australia, I would say, is slightly in front, but not so much so that just 1 wicket can't turn the odds around dramatically. It's been a really good game. It's been a hard-fought game. I think some of the discussion about the pitch has been, to my mind, overstated. It's not a Rawalpindi. It's not a Melbourne. It is possible to get 40 wickets in 5 days on this ground. We might well see that. Well, we're not going to see that because England declared. But it's possible for Australia to get bowled out tomorrow, and that's what you want from a Test match. You want a game that goes 4 3/4 days. It's a terrific game. It's very close, and I would not like to call how tomorrow's going to
go. I don't disagree with you. I wouldn't be quite as generous in your description of the pitch, but at the end of the day, everybody's playing on the same pitch, and it is what it is. So we can't do much
It's
about
not an
that.
absolute feather bed. It's not a feather bed, an
Yeah,
absolute feather bed.
yeah, that's definitely true.
Otherwise, the number of wickets that have fallen, 25, would not have fallen so far. No, more than
Yeah,
25. What am I talking about?
it,
A bunch of wickets.
yeah, lots of wickets. It's interesting looking at the England innings. Everybody except Crawley got into double figures, and nobody reached 50. So it's a good spread in terms of contributions that are there. Who
Well,
were your...
that's a good thing and a bad thing, really.
Yeah,
Nobody got in and played the innings that was going to take the game away from Australia. The way England started, the first, I think, 50 minutes, they scored 80 runs. They set out to continue to do what they've been doing for the last year and a half, which is to absolutely dominate the play with the bat and take the game away from the opposition. Once wickets started to fall, that instinct slacked off
yes,
noticeably, and with Stokes and Bairstow and the lower order were playing fairly bog standard Test cricket, and it was not, and the game was not the worst because of it.
absolutely
You
not.
don't always have to try and score 120 runs an hour. And the match situation demanded that Stokes and Bairstow bat sensibly, and they did for the most part. Some good bowling. Cummins has been terrific in this Test match.
Mm.
He's handled his attack pretty well in difficult situations. So, again, I think, yes, we're not going to use the B word, but although England started off like that, it as the day went on, as I say, it became a type of Test match that is indistinguishable from most other Test matches of the last 20 years.
Yes.
It's good. One thing I was very pleased to see was that Robinson, who is not a mug with a bat by any stretch of the imagination, came in ahead of Broad, and that's where he should stay, really, because he is a decent lower order batsman,
yes.
both in defence and attack, and Broad isn't.
Broad looks like a joke. Some of the shots he tries to play, which when he knows better, it's just weird. One of the interesting things, the very first ball of the day, which I can't recall, I think it was from Cummins. Joe Root moved to just ramp it over the wicket-keeper's head for 6 and missed it entirely. But it was a statement of intent on his part. And that 80 runs in the first 50 minutes actually gave England so much stronger position for the rest of the day, even though, as you say, things did slow down to what is really fairly normal cricket. They averaged 4.1 over the whole of the innings per over. And it was quite surprising, but welcome to see Stokes actually playing with considerable caution at a time when it was required. So, for a brief moment, the clown car came to a halt.
Well, England did have a terrific first hour, an unbelievable first hour, considering they were sort of 20 for 2 in the match situation, or 30 for 2. But even having done that, their position was they never took the game away from Australia, and credit to Australia for pulling their way back into the game, into the day, and into the game with good bowling. Yes, you can look at a couple of the dismissals and say, I'm not sure what was going on there, but Root has never been stumped before in Test cricket. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard that. That's amazing, isn't it?
He obviously feels comfortable coming down the wicket to spin bowlers. It's not the first time he's done it. Yes, but he was playing quite imperiously, as he can do.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily fair to have a go at Root. I'm trying to think of any of the batsmen. Did anybody play a crazy shot which was completely unwarranted? I don't think that.
No, I don't think so. Not so much today, I don't think.
No.
I think it was much more sensible way of going about things.
Yeah, I mean, and that ball from Cummins, which got Pope, was such a terrific delivery that in that one instant it shifted the balance back towards Australia.
Yes.
And it shifted England's attitude, and that's what a great bowler like Cummins can do.
Yes.
Pope is no mug with the bat, and he was absolutely, completely dismantled by that delivery. So again, it's terrific entertainment. Who's not enjoying this? If you don't like this, you don't like cricket.
It's wonderful stuff. Yeah, so Cummings got 4 for 63, well deserved. Lyon also took 4 for 80. Hendo thought that was generous to him. I'm of the view that he got reward for persistence and doing what a spinner does, which is just keep going. And sometimes you're going to get wickets off shit balls, but if you keep going long enough and doing what you're doing reasonably well, you're going to get rewards. So yeah, Lyon is integral to the Australian attack, isn't he?
He hasn't got the number of Test wickets that he's got by just picking up wickets with shit balls. He's a very, very skilled bowler.
Yeah.
The wicket is turning. It's turning slowly, but it's turning enough that batsmen do have to give consideration to the turning ball. And he did manage, after the first hour and a half, when England's batsmen were very much in control, he did manage to exert some level of control for Cummins' captain.
Yes.
Which is necessary if you're going to rotate the other bowlers around him. He's going to have to do that. He's going to have to do that all summer. And England, conversely, want to get after him and make it difficult for him to do that, which is a perfectly legitimate tactic. I remember Australia trying to do something similar to Moeen a few Ashes ago. It lasted until David Warner played a horrible shot and skied him in the air off his first ball and was caught at deep mid on. But it's a tactic that teams have often tried to do against a spinner who needs to bowl his overs with control.
Yes.
Because if you take him out, you not only negate him, you negate the seam bowling attack as well. And that's what England have tried to do. But Lyon came back and he did manage to exert some control. This is going to be fascinating all the way through the summer.
Well, I was going to mention that Hazelwood and Boland didn't bowl particularly well, I don't think, today. They weren't good with their lines and erratic with their length. But when it comes to the England bowling, I thought Broad bowled excellently and Anderson bowled pretty well. Robinson was okay. Moeen Ali is the worry. He bowled 7 overs for 24 runs. He went off after his spell to get some attention to his finger. My sense is that he's in a situation where the pain that's involved in getting enough grip to turn the ball is becoming so great that he can only bowl it straight on almost. That might be enough.
He did get a couple to turn slowly. They didn't exactly spit. He did manage to beat Khawaja genuinely when Khawaja was playing a shot and managed to rip it past the outside edge. So it's not as though he's been completely neutered. Broad, I don't think bowled very well when he started the innings with a new ball. And I think Anderson was a little bit off his lines as well. But the thing about Broad is that he always, well, I'm not saying he always, but how often does he have a spell in him that changes a game? I mean, it just happens too often for it to be a fluke.
Yeah.
He's he's a type of bowler with the wind and the crowd and everything behind him who can change a game in a short period of time. And maybe the 2 wickets that he's taken towards the end of this day have turned this game for him. We'll wait and see.
Yeah. Well, I think for tomorrow, Khawaja is very much the key. He's still looking fantastic. He's never lost a match where he's made a century, which is interesting. In fact, I was looking at I think it's something like 8 years since he was dismissed in the second innings where he'd made a century in the first innings. So he's a key, obviously. And well, we just look forward with excitement to tomorrow. 4 more tests like this will wear me out, but my God, I'll be happy if this is the way it ends up for the rest of the year.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we're hoping that it's not a damp squib and we get enough play to make it a terrific game tomorrow. But even if the worst happened and it was it was rained into a draw, we've seen enough in this Test match to know that the Test matches that are coming are going to be great. And who could ask for anything more over the next month?
Absolutely. Now, before we go, I must admit that I have been remiss in forgetting that the tweeter of the day and the Guerilla of the day. The tweeter of the day today is Mike Taylor, who tweeted in that he decided to buy both Ponting and Botham wines to compare them. But unfortunately, he lives in France, and Botham doesn't ship to France since Brexit. So he's given the win to the winning Ashes wine to Ponting on the basis that there was no competition. But I did enjoy that tweet. So, Mike, you're our tweeter of the day. Our Guerilla of the day, I hadn't thought about. Have you got any suggestions for that, Fred? You were on
Well,
AMO.
I'd like to have a shout out to, of course, to Tony, who does so much of the behind the scenes work. And I mean, people do hear some of this on air, but for example, when you've had to reconstruct a roster because they've added in extra half hours to the first session and the second session, and then the second session, as it's coming to tea, England are 9 wickets down, and then you've had to move a possible extra half hour. I was delighted to break that news to Tony in the green room. I said, "There's 9 wickets down. It's not going to be tea." And you probably didn't need an internet connection around the world to hear his effusive and quite inventive swearing, I have to say. But I'm going to go for Tony for all the incredible effort that he put.
That's a very, very well-deserved award. And on top of that, the Australian crew in Moonee Ponds were chopping and changing at will just to keep him on his toes. So, yes, thank you for that. That's a very good nomination. So that's about it for today. If you're looking for some wine, can I ask that you consider going to the Guerilla Cricket page? Click on the link to Ponting Wines and you'll get 15% off some very nice wines indeed. And if you like this, please click the like button below, share this. We welcome your comments here or on Twitter. And if you'd like to support us, please go to patreon.com/Guerilla Cricket. We'd love to have you as a patron. There are a whole lot of benefits to that, including access to our Discord channel, our newsletter, our weekly podcast. So we'd just love to have your involvement with whatever we do. So that's it for today. We'll be back hopefully with an exciting climax tomorrow. Thank you very much for being with me, Fred, and I look forward to catching up with you later on.
Pleasure. See you, Messi.
Cheers.
And now it's time for Guerilla Roundup. They'll let you know what